Hello guys, and welcome to the first video in this new series. In this series I'll be showing off my collection. It might not be the best collection and there are no PSA rated cards in it, but I still think it's a special collection because it does not only contain holographic cards but also all the common cards from these sets. So I will be showing off this collection set by set, and I will do one video on each set. As you can see up here it says LOB, so we will be starting out with Legend of Blue Eyes White Dragon today. And each set has its own binder. Now, why does each set have its own binder? That's because I'm not only collecting one card of each in the set, but I'm actually collecting 3 cards of each in the set. So I can build any deck I want from these cards. Without further ado, I'm going to open the binder and show you the first page here, where you can see the first secret rare in the set on the Blue Eyes White Dragon, of course. A few more things here. The first row in the binder is always English First Edition one. So there is one full set English First Edition of LOB in here. Of course, since I'm from Europe, Germany to be specific, it's not really possible to distinguish between the European English cards and the American English cards, so it's actually a mix. Some of them are American, some of them are European. But if you're buying singles, it's hard to find out if the cards are American or European, so I just took whatever. Yeah, as you can also see, this is a Magic card binder, so it's always 4 pockets right here. That's simply because for LOB it was not enough to take a 3x3 binder because the set is too big, so I had to take a Magic binder and actually use the 4 pockets right here. So the playsets of the cards will always be below each other. Yeah, is there anything else to say? Yeah, as I mentioned, the cards are ordered by their set number. But since the European version of LOB had some cards taken out that were released later on with Spell Ruler, the numbers don't actually fit. But I don't think you will be able to see the numbers in the camera, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, so I'll be showing off all the cards in here and talk about their rarity and maybe about their effect. Let's just see how it goes. So on this first page there are some Tri-Horned Dragons right here. I actually got 6 of those, so I spread them out over 2 pockets here. And then of course the 6 Blue Eyes White Dragon. There are 2 first edition ones up here. The right one is the one I had since a longer time. It's actually a lightly played condition, so not the greatest. And the one next to that, this one is the one we pulled from the box. So this one is kind of mint. And then of course there are some unlimited Blue Eyes White Dragons down here. This one is a German one. That's also really good condition. And then there is another one back here which is in a really bad condition. It has multiple creases, so I'm not putting that in front. Yeah, so then on to the next page. We have the Flame Swordsman, which of course is a pretty iconic fusion monster here. The Skull Servant, which first of all was kind of like a joke card. 1-star monsters for 300, but later on I think it got support and there was actually a playable deck with this guy. Then we have the Dark Magician, of course another one in first edition up here. It's also lightly played to plate. You can see up here there's a little foil showing through. And some unlimited ones here. Then Gaia the First Knight. Not a card I particularly like because even back in the day, 2 tributes for only 2300 attack was not really good. So yeah, I never liked this card a lot. There's actually a 4th one back in here. These 2 are German and these 2 of course are English. And we have the Celtic Guardian over here. I think I pulled one from the box I opened on the channel, so that should be that one. And there's another first edition one down here. This is an English one, so a European English, and this is American English. And an unlimited one. Yeah, on the next page there are a lot of vanilla monsters that were released in LOB. Some iconic YuGiOh monsters like the Mammoth Graveyard and the Silver Fang. Of course one of the LOB fusion monsters. These monsters are known for being really bad. This one only has 1100 attack, so you have to use the 2 fusion material monsters and the polymerization just to get a 1100 monster. That's really not good. And then of course there's the Trial of Hell, which was later on renamed to a Trial of Nightmare. I think the artwork was also changed. In the OCG there's a little blood where the sword goes through the coffin. It was removed for the TCG. And there's the flame manipulator, which is one of the materials for the flame swordsman. Next page is basically the same again, a whole bunch of vanilla monsters and 2 pretty useless fusion monsters. I think the fusion list is actually played today with instant fusion or something like that for Exceed decks that require 3 stars, because I was trying to get a 3rd copy because I only had 2 of this guy and it was really hard to find for some reason, so I guess it's actually played today. Yeah, on to the next page, another page full of vanilla monsters. The only notable here is the Aquamador, which is pretty good with 2000 defense. If you had this guy back in the day, you were definitely playing it in a deck. Not only does it have 2000 defense, it also has 1200 attack, which is also pretty good for a 4-star monster. If you look over here, these are all at like 900 or 600, so 1200 was pretty good as well. Yeah, then of course more vanilla monsters. That's just how the set was back then. There's the 2nd fusion material for the Flame Swordsman. And all the way to the end there's the first magic card of the set, the Legendary Sword. There was 1 equip spell card released for every type of monster that increases the attack and defense by 300 points. So this equip card is for warrior type monsters. And then of course if we go to the next page you can see there are a lot more. So this is a beast type, zombie type, spellcaster and aqua. There are more later on in the set. For some reason they decided to put some in the front and some in the back of the set, which is kind of weird. Then this card is a little special because it's a misprint. As you can see, the normal artwork is like this, or the one down below where there's a feather over the book. And this one, it's an European English 1st edition one. There's somehow missing the feather. I don't know, they probably forgot about it or something. Yeah, then we have the Dragon Capture Char. It's a pretty bad card. Expect if your opponent summons the Blue Eyes White Dragon. If you saw the starter deck duo where we played with starter deck Kaiba versus starter deck YuGiOh, I could actually use that card to beat the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Then there are the first field spell cards that were released. They also increase attack and defense of specific monster types by 200. They were not really good. I mean, you could play them, but most of the time there was a better vanilla monster that had more attack than whatever monster you could push with these field spell cards, and you could just play instead. Of course, there are more field spell cards on the next side. The only notable one is Yumi, which got quite some support later on. There were a lot of cards that say when Yumi is open on the field, you get a specific effect, so that was a pretty good card. Then there are the 2 best cards of the set, probably. One's the Dark Hole, which destroys all monsters on the field, and the Raigeki, which destroys all opponents' monsters. Up to this day, there are still some of the most broken cards in the game that everybody plays. And of course Raigeki and also the Dark Hole, they were both banned for most of the time, back in the old formats. Of course today they are both allowed because there are so many monsters getting summoned that it doesn't really matter if you destroy them all. But back in the day it was a huge deal if you destroy 2 or 3 monsters of your opponent. Yeah, then there are some recovery and burn cards right here. With these cards here you can see the power creep in YuGiOh, which is really bad. Like, these cards are all released in the same set, and this one says inflict 200 points of direct damage to your opponent's life points, and this one says inflict 500 points of direct damage to your opponent's life points. And a little later on in the set we will even see one that says inflict 600 points. So if there's a card that says inflict 600 points of damage, then there's no reason to play any of these 2 cards, which make them really pointless. I don't know why they were printed at all. Same goes for Red Medicine. There is another card in this set that's further back that increases your life points by 600, so this card is really pointless. Well, on to the next page. 2 very powerful cards that were staple back in the day are Fissure and Trap Hole. They're of course 1-for-1 monster removals. You activate the card and destroy 1 monster. Was pretty strong back in the day. You could use them to destroy whatever strong monster your opponent had. Like if he was to summon a Blue Eyes White Dragon or Summon Skull, you could just activate the Trap Hole and the monster would be gone. Same goes for Fissure. Like you could destroy all the weaker monsters your opponent controlled by battle and then just activate Fissure to destroy whatever strong monster your opponent had. Then we have the polymerization. Of course, for a long time this was the only way to special summon fusion monsters. I think the first card that allowed you to special summon fusion monsters besides polymerization was Fusion Gate that came out in LON, so there's quite a few sets till that card was released. Then we got Remove Trap, that's a pretty useless card. Two-pronged attack, one of the probably worst cards that was ever released in this game. It says select and destroy 2 of your monsters and 1 of your opponent's monsters. Now, you take 3 cards to destroy 1 monster of your opponent. That's really, really bad. Don't use that card. Yeah, then we got the Mystical Elf. Of course, another 2000 defense monster with only 800 attack, so it's not as good as Aquamator, but since this is a card that Yugi was using in the anime, it of course got made super rare. And some more 4-star vanilla monsters here. Yeah, so onto the next page we have the Gravedigger Ghoul. It was kind of an interesting card back then because it was the first card to interact with banishing cards or removing cards from play. But the card itself was kind of pointless because the only card back in the day that targeted your graveyard was Monster Reborn, and while you could remove a strong monster from your opponent's graveyard, so you cannot use Monster Reborn to get it back, you could not use your own Monster Reborn to get it back either, so the card was not really good. Then we have Curse of Dragon, which is another Yugi card, which is probably why it is printed super rare. It's, I think, one of the strongest 5 or 6-star monsters that was released early on, because it has 2000, but I never really liked this monster because, yeah, you need the tribute, you can summon it, and then it still doesn't destroy monsters like Mystical Elf, Aquamator, or a Giant Soldier of Stone, so it's kind of pointless to summon it with a tribute. Then we have the Carbonala Warrior, another kind of weak fusion monster, but I think it's actually getting used today as well with instant fusion or something, because this guy is also pretty hard to find. Then we have Giant Soldier of Stone. This one is the best 2000 defense monster that existed back in the day, because it has the most attack with 1300 and it's only a 3-star, so that's really good actually. Then we have Urabi, which is one of the better 4-star monsters in this set with 1500. I think there's only one that is better at 1550. The Red Eyes Black Dragon, another very iconic monster from Joey. Yeah, I never liked it a lot because it's also pretty weak for having 2 tributes, and the Blue Eyes White Dragon and Dark Magician are just stronger, and of course even the Summon Skull with only 1 tribute is stronger than that one. Reaper of the Cards, one of the first flip effect monsters. It destroys 1 face down trap card, which is actually not too bad, but it requires a tribute and has pretty bad attack and defense values, so you would rather not play it. And this card actually has probably the oddest attack and defense numbers of any card in the game at 1380 and 1930. So if you want to play this guy, you better bring your calculator. Yeah, next page, again, a lot of vanilla monsters. I think the only mentionable one is the Spirit of the Harp, which of course is another 2000 defense monster, so you could play that one. And interesting, these are actually all the monsters that got removed from the European release of Blue Eyes White Dragon, so these were not actually in the set, and they were released later on with Spell Ruler for whatever reason. Yeah, next page we have more vanilla monsters, another pointless fusion, and then we get more of the equip spell cards. This one is for the fiend monsters, and then we have insect, plant, fairy, dragon, thunder, beast warrior and machine type monsters. And of course the stop defense card. Today this card seems pretty bad, but back in the day, as you could see, there are a lot of 2000 defense monsters that you would play, so stop defense was actually a decent card that you could play in your deck to turn the Giant Soldier of Stone into attack mode and destroy it by battle. Yeah, so next page we have 2 more equip spell cards for dinosaur and winged beast type monsters. And then of course these are the 2 power creep cards I was talking about. We have the Final Flame, which says inflict 600 points of direct damage to your opponent's life points, and the Goblin's Secret Remedy, which says increase selected player's life points by 600. So these 2 cards are stronger than all the cards that we saw earlier. And I don't know why these other cards were even printed. Next we have Swords of Revealing Light, which is of course one of the best cards back in the day. It was played in every single deck because it just stalls your opponent by 3 turns where he cannot attack, and if you're behind you can just catch up by drawing 3 cards and hoping to get some monsters going. Yeah, pretty interesting about those is I'm actually going to get some out here. If you compare these two, I don't know if that's visible on the camera, but this one is a lot brighter and looks a lot different than the one on the left. And that's simply because this one is a reprint from the Legendary collection, and this one is an original one. Yeah, it's not really possible to distinguish these if you just see pictures. So if you want to buy a Swords of Revealing Light online, it's really hard to not buy Legendary collection ones, because they both say LOB down here, and on pictures you cannot really tell the visual difference. Yeah, some more pointless monsters over here, like on the next page right here. The Skull Redbird is actually the strongest 4-star monsters of this set at 1550 attack, so it's 50 stronger than the Urabi we saw earlier. Next we have the Armed Ninja. This card has a flip effect, destroy 1 magic card on the field. Not really a good card, I would not play it. There are definitely better options. Another pointless fusion monster. Then we have the Miniature Bug, which was a really good card back in the day. Just like Trap Hole and Fissure, it's like a 1-for-1 exchange. And if your opponent summons a big monster, you can just play your Miniature Bug and destroy it. It was a staple in pretty much every deck. Yeah, another mentionable card here is the Hain, which is pretty much the same as the Miniature Bug, just that it returns the monster from the field to the hand instead of destroying it. But it was still pretty good if your opponent summons a Blue Eyes White Dragon and you just return it to the hand and he has to tribute another 2 monsters to summon it again. Of course today this card would probably be considered even better than the Miniature Bug, because sending cards to the graveyard often triggers their effect, while sending them back to the hand does not. Yeah, so second to last page, there are a lot of vanilla monsters here again, which are not really good. Like you can see right here, this guy has 5 stars and only 1400 attack, or this guy has 5 stars with 1650. These are really not good. Yeah, then of course we got the Monster Reborn. I really love looking at this card because as a kid you always had the starter deck Monster Reborns, which were commons, and those are the ones that you saw most of your life. Like you only saw the common version of the card, so it's really cool to see the holographic one. And I own these since quite some years now, and it's still cool to look at them. And we have Pot of Greed. I always forget what this card does. Draw 2 cards from your deck. Seems kind of good. Maybe you can play the card, I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments if Pot of Greed is a good card or not. Yeah, so the last page is probably the page you've been all waiting for, so without further ado, let's show it to you. The Exodia sets. So, yeah, again, the first row right here is the first edition Exodia. The only American English card of this set is this one, which is the Exodia we pulled from the box. There's another first edition head right here, which is a European English one. And if you, I'm going to get it right out of the sleeve here for a moment. If you look at that, I don't know if you can see it in the camera right here. Whoops. This card is basically destroyed. There's a lot of bends and scratches and whatever. So that's the reason why I wanted to pull the Exodia head from the box. And I'm really glad that I did. Yeah, the other parts of this set are, I think, likely plate to plate. Maybe 1 or 2 of them on Near Mint, I'm not sure right now. And of course there are more sets. The set down here is mostly German. And the set in the middle, actually pretty interesting. I won this set in a giveaway on Instagram. I think it was done by the YuGiOh Mint. And he actually just gave away the whole set of Exodia from LOB. Yeah, he's a very generous guy. He just sent me the whole set. And I think even though it's unlimited and not first edition, that set is probably still worth at least $60, I guess. So really a cool guy. Yeah, and the last card in the set is the Gaia the Dragon Champion, which of course There's one first edition up here and two unlimited ones. I never really understood why they made this card secret rare. It would have been way cooler if the Dark Magician and the Blue Eyes White Dragon would have been secret rare, because these two secret rares we got right here are kind of random, but it is what it is. Yeah, so that's it for the first binder of Legend of Blue Eyes White Dragon. Next binder I will show off will be Metal Raiders. You guys can please leave me a comment what you think about showing off these binders. Do you want me to talk more about the cards or less? I can go flip through the binder a little bit quicker. I can see we're at 20 minutes right here. I think that's actually okay. I like talking about the effects of the old cards. But yeah, let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys next time.